Hello, everybody. My name is Tristan. Welcome back to L-Space, or welcome to L-Space if you're new. Today, I am very excited to be filming my live reactions to the Booker Longlist. I would say that I have no anticipation for what I have not anticipated anything that is on the list. I've not predicted anything except for perhaps James by Percival Everett. I think that's the only one that I have I've sort of hoped that that one is on the list. It's not one that I've necessarily predicted. So I've stayed off social media entirely today. Today being July 30th, the day that the long list is released. I've stayed completely off social media, stayed off YouTube. So I have avoided basically entirely the leaks, well, not leaks, the release of the long list. So I made it home, got home from my 9-to-5 job. Here we are. I'm going to now react to each of the books on the long list because that's always fun. Okay, so here I have the Booker Prize page on my tablet. So let's look here. The long list for the Booker Prize 2024 has been announced, featuring 3 debut novels and 6 previously nominated writers. So the long list of 13 books, the Booker Dozen, was chosen by the 2024 judge panel. The panel is chaired by Edmund de Waal, whom I don't think I've read any of his work. There's also Sarah Collins, who is an award-winning novelist, a fiction editor of The Guardian, Justine Jordan, and of course we have Yi-Yun Lee, who has some pretty great books. I liked Book of Goose decently. I had some issues with it, but I thought it was fine in general. And then I have so far really enjoyed The Vagrants, though I've not finished it. And then last but not least, we have musician, composer, and producer. That's interesting. Nitin Sawhney. Okay, cool. So let's see what we got here. So the first one on the list is called Wandering Stars. And, oh, duh. Okay, so this is by Tommy Orange. That makes a lot of sense. So this is... I'm honestly not surprised that Tommy Orange has made it onto the list. He is really up and coming as an author, and I definitely see him in spaces where people are discussing critically, the quality of his work. Although I unfortunately have not read any of it. It's always there, which is also funny because that's one of his books. There. It is. So yeah, I very much want to read his work, and this year I am planning on reading The Long List. So I guess this is my time. So, a tender, shattering story of generations of a Native American family struggling to find ways through displacement, addiction, and pain towards home and hope. Following its unforgettable characters through almost 2 centuries of history, from the horrors of the Sand Creek Massacre of 1865 and the aftermath of a mass shooting in the early 21st century, Wandering Stars is an indelible novel of America's war on its own people. Oof. Yeah, that sounds really good. It also sounds very Booker-worthy. Yeah, I'm super interested in this one, and I might have to get the UK cover. I'm gonna put it up here because I definitely like the UK cover a lot more than I like the US cover. The US cover is still fine, but the UK cover is really cool. So that is Wandering Stars by Tommy Orange. Next is called Wild Houses by Colin Barrett, and I have never heard of either Colin nor the novel, so this is new to me. The story of 2 outsiders striving to find themselves as their worlds collapse in chaos and violence. Wild Houses is the first novel from award-winning writer Colin Barrett. Okay, so it must have awards and some other things, but that's cool. Alright, as Bellina prepares for its biggest weekend of the year, the simmering feud between small-time dealer Killian English and County Mayo's fraternal enforcers Gabe and Sketch Ferdia spills over into violence and an ugly ultimatum. When the reclusive Dev answers his door on Friday night, he finds Doll, Killian's teenage brother, in the clutches of Gabe and Sketch. Jostled by his nefarious cousins and goaded by his dead mother's dog, Dev is drawn headlong into the Ferdia's revenge fantasy. This sounds, well, I guess it's in the title. It sounds wild. I honestly don't quite know what to think of that. I guess it's kind of giving me maybe Lord of the Flies vibes, where it's a bunch of men, really, men, boys, etc., kind of feeding off of each other's aggression and sort of spiraling downward, maybe. That's kind of the vibe that I'm getting from this, but it sounds cool. Oh, sorry, there's more to it. Meanwhile, 17-year-old Nikki can't shake the feeling something bad has happened to her boyfriend Doll. Hungover, reeling from a fractious Friday night, and plagued by ghosts of her own, Nikki sets out on a feverish mission to save Doll, even as she questions her future in Belina. Okay, so this is kind of a literary thriller. It sounds pretty interesting. Yeah, I'm very curious about this one. It's also blurbed by Sally Rooney, it looks like, so I think that it's probably of quality. I think we can decently assume that. Yeah, oh gosh, that one's actually kind of got me thinking. Interesting, okay. All right, next is Held by Anne Michaels. It's kind of an interesting cover. The cover looks very Booker. You'll see. In a narrative that spans 4 generations, moments of connection and consequence ignite and reignite as the century unfolds. 1917, on a battlefield near River Escaut, John lies in the aftermath of a blast, unable to move or feel his legs. Struggling to focus his thoughts, he is lost to memory. A chance encounter in a pub by a railway, a hot bath with his lover on a winter night, his childhood on a faraway coast, as the snow falls. 1920, John has returned from war to North Yorkshire, near another river, alive, but not still whole. Reunited with Helena, an artist, he reopens his photography business and endeavors to keep on living, but the past erupts insistently into the present as ghosts begin to surface in his pictures. Ghosts whose messages he cannot understand. Oh gosh, this sounds so good. Okay, so I just recently read In Memoriam by Alice Wynne, which is another World War I story, and I have been very interested in World War I thematically, and I think just as a historical period. It's one that I might potentially write about at some point, so I'm curious to know more about that period, and I love ghosts, just in general. I don't like horror at all. I don't like being scared, but I love the concept of ghosts, and I love the concept of being haunted. So this idea of ghosts appearing in his photographs sounds super interesting. Also, the fact that it says, what is it? A hot bath with his lover on a winter night. It's definitely going to be queer, right? You don't have a hot bath with a lover if the lover is if it's a straight situation. So I think it's gonna be pretty cool. So that is Held by Anne Michaels. I am super intrigued about that one. Wow, okay, cool. That sounds cool. Creation Late by Rachel Kushner. I feel like I've seen this one around, but I'm not sure. Okay. A woman is caught in the crossfire between the past and the future in this part spy novel, part profound treatise on human history. I already like where this is going. Sadie Smith. It's great name. Love that. Also have a cat named Sadie. It's my childhood cat, so already a fan here. Okay. Sadie Smith, a 34-year-old American undercover agent of ruthless tactics, bold opinions, and clean beauty, is sent by her mysterious but powerful employers to a remote corner of France. Cool. Sold. I don't think I need to know anymore. I feel like I'm going to absolutely love this one. Okay. Her mission to infiltrate a commune of radical eco-activists led by the charismatic Svengali Bruno Lacombe. Okay, yeah, this sounds absolutely up my alley. This is very much what I want to read. Okay. Sadie casts her cynical eye over this region of ancient farms and sleepy villages, and at first finds Bruno's idealism laughable. He lives in a Neanderthal cave and believes the path to enlightenment is a return to primitivism. But just as Sadie is certain she's the seductress and puppet master of those she surveils, Bruno Lacombe is seducing her with his ingenious counter-histories, his artful laments, and his own tragic story. A work of high art, high comedy, and irresistible pleasure from the author of the Booker Prize nominated The Mars Room. Okay, yeah, this, I need this book. This sounds so good. I just recently read, well, not recently, well, this year I read, what is it, the Sisters of the Resistance, something like that. I don't remember who the author is, but I'll put the thing up here. But I read it as an audiobook, and it was all about the French resistance during World War II, during the German occupation of France, or I should say the Nazi occupation of France, because that's who it was. And I really like the whole espionage thing. I think a lot of people do. Everybody loves a good spy novel. Yeah, this sounds fantastic. I need this book. Oh, great, and it's out in paperback. I can't wait. Probably I'm going to maybe irresponsibly purchase that one after I'm done filming. Okay, next is This Strange Eventful History. Okay, great. I'm so glad because I have really wanted to read this one, and this is by Claire Massoud. I had the opportunity to go see the author present this book at the Harvard bookstore, which is not affiliated with Harvard. It's just the bookstore that's across the street from Harvard. And I think I don't remember what happened that I wasn't able to go. I think I ended up being out of town or something like that. But anyway, I am so intrigued by this book, and let me tell you why. Well, read you why. This strange eventful history charts the Cassars' unfolding story in a work of breathtaking historical sweep and vivid psychological intimacy. June 1940, as Paris falls to the Germans, Gaston Cassar, honorable servant of France, devoted husband and father, currently posted as naval attaché in Salonika, bids farewell to his beloved wife, aunt, and children, placing his faith in God that they will be reunited after the war. But escaping the violence, of course there's the but escaping the violence of that cataclysm is not the same as emerging unscathed. True, the family will never again be whole. Okay, so we have two narratives of people coming back broken from war. Very interesting so far. Do we have three now? No. I don't know. I'll double check. Okay. After the Cassars moved between Salonika and Algeria, the US, Cuba, Canada, Argentina, Australia, and France, their itinerary is shaped as much by a search for an elusive wholeness as by the imperatives of politics, faith, family, industry, and desire. As you can see, it's one that has a lot of depth to it, and I'm quite curious about really everything that is going on in this novel. It's interesting that we've had the World War I novel with Held, and then now we have the World War II with This Strange Eventful History. And I like that they're both, ostensibly stories about men coming back from war written by women. I think that's very interesting. Not interesting. It's going to be a very rewarding experience, I think, reading these things. It's still not the right adjective to it, but it's fine. You get it. It's a positive experience. I'm excited to read these. And also, I think that this one, just like, there's so much in it. You're going to Salonika, Algeria, the US, Cuba, Canada, Argentina, Australia, and France. And I think that all of those places are going to be very interesting to explore. I'm also pretty sure that this is a very long book. I think it's over 400 pages, so there's a lot to it. So I'm hoping that it has able to give enough depth. Okay, we have, oh cool. So now we have Playground by Richard Powers. And Richard Powers, I believe, was nominated a couple years ago. Going to find out, but I know that he has the Over story. That's one of the ones that he's done, and I really want to read that one because it sounds cool. Playground explores that last wild place we have yet to colonize and interweaves profound themes of technology and the environment and a deep exploration of our shared humanity. Yeah, that's right. He's sort of like an eco-fiction guy, and I read Once There Were Wolves by Charlotte something. Cover will be here. But anyway, and I really like eco-fiction. I think it's a cool subsection of fiction. So I do like that. Okay, cool. Let's keep going. Rafi and Todd are two polar opposites at an elite high school where they bond over a 3,000-year-old board game. Elsewhere, Evie Beaulieu sinks to the bottom of a swimming pool in Montreal, strapped to one of the world's first aqualungs. Cool. Ina Aroida grows up in naval bases across the Pacific with art as her only home. All these people meet on the history-scarred island of Makatea in French Polynesia, marked for humanity's next great adventure, a plan to send floating, autonomous cities out into the open sea. As the seasteaders close in, how will Evie play the ever-unfolding oceanic game? Will Ina engage in acts of destruction? Todd and Raffi, now estranged, still find themselves in competition. Todd unravels while working on an idea to redraw the boundaries of human immortality, while Raffi and the residents must decide if they will greenlight the new project on their shores and change their home forever. Oof. Yeah, none of this surprises me for Richard Powers. Definitely sounds very interesting. The floating autonomous cities thing is such an interesting idea and like possibility. It's something that I think I will probably see in my lifetime, if I had to guess, if the planet doesn't die. But yeah, there's a lot going on in this one, and I'm always a sucker for somebody who is is connected to their humanity through art. So I think that Ina Arroita and I are going to be friends. And I'm also always a sucker for oceanic settings. I love the ocean. It's my favorite thing in the world. And so I am very excited to look more into this one. Yeah. Oh wow, this sounds so good. I guess the title Playground, that gives the novel so many possibilities, and it's almost a little dark in that I'm so intrigued. Okay, cool. Yeah, this is very interesting. All right, now we have Enlightenment by Sarah Perry. The story of love and astronomy told over the course of 20 years through the lives of two improbable best friends. Now, this sounds super interesting. Okay, already it sounds interesting. Okay, Thomas Hart and Grace Macaulay have lived all their lives in the small Essex town of Aldley. Maybe. Aldley? Cool. I think that's it. Aldley. Though separated in age by 3 decades, the pair are kindred spirits, torn between their commitment to religion and their desire to explore the world beyond their small Baptist community. But their friendship is threatened by the arrival of love. Thomas falls for James Bower, who runs the local museum. Good. Together they develop an obsession with the vanished 19th century astronomer Maria Vadova, said to haunt a nearby manor. Oof. We've got ghosts. I love this already. We've got a couple of ghost stories. It's fun. Who may have made startling astronomical discoveries that have never been acknowledged. Meanwhile, Grace meets Nathan, a fellow sixth former who represents a different, wilder kind of life. Oh, right, sixth form. That's a British school thing. Okay. They are drawn passionately together, but quickly pulled apart, casting Grace into the wider world and far away from Thomas. Over the course of 20 years, by coincidence and design, Thomas and Grace will find their lives brought back into orbit as a devastating story of love and scientific pursuit unfolds, and the mysteries of Aldley are revealed. Cool. This sounds really interesting. There is enough spooky stuff that's going on in here. Startling astronomical discoveries. That is pretty interesting. I like how that sounds. As well as, a ghostly astronomer from the 19th century. It's a Victorian ghost. Yeah, that sounds really cool. And I also love the separated by 30 years friendship between what I'm gonna guess is like an old what will end up being an old gay man and a younger woman. I love that idea. That sounds delightful. Okay, that sounds super interesting. I am going to have to start making a list of priorities for this one. Okay, cool. Nobody is surprised about Orbital being on here. I think everybody kind of called this one. Hi, Doug. Okay, so Orbital by Samantha Harvey. I think this takes place across I'll just read it so I don't make any assumptions. I have the description here. All right. 6 astronauts rotate in the International Space Station. They are there to do vital work, but slowly they begin to wonder, what is life without Earth? What is Earth without humanity? Together they watch their silent blue planet, circling it 16 times, spinning past continents and cycling through seasons, taking in glaciers and deserts, the peaks of mountains, and the swells of oceans. Endless shows of spectacular beauty witnessed in a single day. Yet, although separated from the world, they cannot escape its constant pull. News reaches them of the death of a mother, and with it comes thoughts of returning home. They look on as a typhoon gathers over an island and people they love, in awe of its magnificence and fearful of its destruction. The fragility of human life fills their conversations, their fears, their dreams. So far from Earth, they have never felt more part of it or protective of it. Yeah, I think that everybody that I've seen doing predictions of the Booker long list have said that Orbital is a very Booker book. And so it should not come to anybody's surprise that Orbital made it onto the list. And it's true. Like it does sound like a Booker book, but it sounds really good. It sounds good nonetheless. I think that if I remember right, it's also a fairly short book. So this one might be a good weekend read, one that doesn't take a lot of time, has some really deep themes. So yeah, I'm not surprised to see this one on the list, but I'm definitely excited to read it for sure. Okay, cool. I think again we all called it. James made it. James by Percival Everett made it to the list. I am not going to say anything about James because it's everywhere. Everybody knows about it, pretty much. But I will just say a profound meditation on identity, belonging, and the sacrifices we make to protect the ones we love, which reimagines the adventures of Huckleberry Finn. I have really wanted to read this book for ever since it came out. I've been very curious about it, but I've just not gotten it because I haven't had time and other things have come up. But anyway, because I am very dedicated to finally reading the long list of the Booker, it will not happen. It will not happen by the time the winner is announced. I can tell you that. But I am dedicating myself to reading the long list just to kind of like get a little bit out of my comfort zone and see what each of the judges found in each of the books. I think that's something that I'm very curious to see more of. Anyway, James has been like top priority ever since it came out, and so the fact that it is on this list gives me just like another kick in the pants to do it. So that's great. I'm very excited. All right. Ooh, we have 4 more to go. Wow, this is a long video. I'm sorry. The Safe Keep by Yale Vanderwolden. Okay, I think I saw somebody predict this one. I'm not sure. An exhilarating tale of twisted desires, histories, and homes, and the legacy of one of the 20th century's greatest tragedies. Uh-oh. It's 15 years since the Second World War, and the rural Dutch provinces of Overijssel is quiet. Bomb craters have been filled, buildings reconstructed, and the conflict is well and truly over. Living alone in her late mother's country home, Isabel's life is as it should be, led by routine and discipline. But all is upended when her brother Louis delivers his graceless new girlfriend, Ava, at Isabel's doorstep as a guest, there to stay for the season. Ooh, okay, this sounds very interesting. I might leave it at that because I kind of don't want to know any more about this one in particular, because I imagine things can get pretty dicey from there. All right, next. Okay, I've seen somebody predict this one too. So this one is My Friends by Hisham Matar, and this also sounds like a really good book. So this is an intensely moving novel about 3 friends living in political exile and the emotional homeland that friendship can provide. So found family, gotta love that. Khalid and Mustafa meet at university in Edinburgh, 2 Libyan 18-year-olds expecting to return home after their studies. In a moment of recklessness and courage, they travel to London to join a demonstration in front of the Libyan embassy. When government officials open fire on protesters in broad daylight, both friends are wounded and their lives forever changed. Oof. Over the years that follow, Khalid, Mustafa, and their friend Hossam, a writer, are bound together by their shared history. If friendship is a space to inhabit, theirs becomes small and inhospitable when a revolution in Libya forces them to choose between the lives they have created in London and the lives they left behind. Now, I have heard nothing but good things about this one. I am very, very interested in reading it. So, cool. Very excited to get to that one. Next is... never heard of this one. Stoneyard Devotional by Charlotte Wood. Okay, so the past comes knocking in Charlotte Wood's fearless exploration of forgiveness, grief, and female friendship. Okay, the cover's cool. Burnt out and in need of retreat, a middle-aged woman leaves Sydney to return to the place she grew up, taking refuge in a small religious community hidden away in the stark plains of the Australian outback. Oh, cool. I have never read any books set in Australia. That's a lie. Apples Never Fall by Leanne Moriarty. I did read that one, but that's it. I've never read any other Australian novels. Okay. She doesn't believe in God or know what prayer is and finds herself living a strange reclusive existence almost by accident. But disquiet interrupts this secluded life with 3 visitations. First comes from a terrible mouse plague, each day signaling a new battle against the rising infestation. Second is the return of the skeletal remains of a sister who disappeared decades before, presumed murdered. And finally, a troubling visitor plunges the narrator further back into her past. Okay, so we've got like the plagues thing. Was it the 7 plagues, 6 plagues, whatever, on Egypt? That sounds very interesting. I think so far that is the one that I care the least about, so I will probably try to read it sooner rather than later so that I can keep the motivation up. But, I think that it can definitely surprise me. The last, and I've heard really good things about this one, is Headshot by Rita Bullwinkle. Funny, propulsive, obsessive, and ecstatic, Headshot is equal parts subtle and intense as it brings us to the sidelines of the boxing ring and above and beyond it. Headshot is the story of the 8 best teenage girl boxers in the United States, told over the 2 days of a championships tournament in Nevada, and structured as a series of face-offs. As the girls' pasts and futures collide, the specific joy and violence of the sport comes to life with electric energy and a portrait emerges of the desires, envy, perfectionism, madness, and sheer physical pleasure that motivates each of these young women to fight. The fact that it focuses on women's boxing is great. I think that boxing is such a testosterone infested sport, and I think sports in general have a overabundance of testosterone, and so the fact that we are seeing things from a women's perspective is really cool. I really like this, and I also like that we are seeing women as perpetrators of violence and violence for sport. I think that that's an interesting, I say perpetrators, it's not the best word, but women in again, just boxing, women in boxing. Let's just leave it at that. We don't need to go that much further. Really cool. I am very curious about this one as well. And the fact that it's told, the story of the women is told over a series of face-offs. I think that is a really cool literary strategy, like a narrative strategy. I think that's a cool way to do it. All right, so that is it. That is the long list for 2024 for the Booker Prize. I am probably going to do a video where I do my prioritizing which ones of these I am going to read first, but I know that I'm going to enjoy all of them. I think that all of them are going to be super cool. I think I am most excited for Held, Creation Lake, Playground, Enlightenment, James, and This Strange Eventful History. If I have just accidentally picked the short list, I'm going to be very shocked. But those are the ones that I am most excited for, and I think that those are the ones that are going to be the ones that I personally pick as my short list. So more to come on that. I will let you know what I end up doing in the future, but those are my reactions. I don't know if that was particularly entertaining, but I had fun looking at them because I have been dying to see what's on the list. Sounds like a good list this year. I think that we've got a pretty wide selection and a pretty good selection. So that is it. That is it for me from me to you today. Thank you very much for watching. Hit the subscribe button if you're new, and of course, let me know in the comment sections which one you're most excited about to read when you get the chance to do so. All right. Thank you very much for watching once again, and take care. Bye.